And the mutilations continue. Between May 1979 and January 1980, over 30 cattle in Canada had reportedly suffered this strange fate. Iowa had 8 reported mutilations in the last months of 1979.
That's a good way to start. Welcome back to Rock Hard Caucus, everyone. This is episode 113. I'm here with two of my friends. Alan is here. Alan, are you going to say this is your first time or not?
First time, long time.
Okay. This is Alan's first time on the show, not his 13th time on the show.
No. Why would I ever come on a podcast?
I did check the records to make sure that this is not your 13th time. It is your first time on the program. Correct. So welcome back for the first time, Alan.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to be speaking with you today.
And making his, I believe, only second appearance on the show, so twice as many as Alan. A man who I encountered in public earlier today reading The Fellowship of the Ring, Oliver. Welcome back.
What's up? Good to be back. I definitely cried at the end in the coffee shop where you saw me. You know, when Sam and Frodo leave all by themselves. It's super touching. You know, I made a fool of myself in public.
You were getting pretty close to the end when I saw you.
It's okay for the boys to, share a heartfelt moment between each other.
Yeah, Sam and Frodo, they have many heartfelt boys moments. You know, they have quite a few of them.
I'll be honest, I've never actually read those books is what I haven't read, and I'll just say I'm for it though. I'm cool with it.
I'm very pro books. Very pro reading, specifically The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. People are always saying that about me, and they're right.
So to get things started today, I have a real bummer topic, but it is like the biggest thing that has happened recently in Iowa. The Davenport building collapse, which happened at the end of May. This was a big apartment building. It's got like 80 units in it and a bunch of retail space on the ground floor. The building is called the Davenport, and it fell apart. And before we discuss any of the details around like why that happened and like the action and inaction that led to the disaster, I do want to acknowledge the 3 men whose bodies were recovered from the disaster. That's Brandon Colvin, who was 42 years old, Ryan Hitchcock, who was 51, and Daniel Prian, who was 60. These 3 guys were killed in the building collapse, completely preventable deaths, an absolute unnecessary tragedy that happened to these guys and their families, and it's we're going to talk about how we got there, I guess, today.
Yeah, I think it's pretty stunning how badly the state and the city, so to speak, has handled this, because I feel like the response has been like super slow and very just strange. I mean, you guys went down there before they knew that there were 3 people that were killed?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons Oliver's on today, aside from just being a fun guy to talk to, we happened to both be in Davenport last week in the aftermath of the building collapse. And that was last Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day, at which time they knew, I believe, two people were unaccounted for. That was Brandon Colvin and Ryan Hitchcock. And I think they were saying actually 5 people were missing at the time, but we knew 2 of them by name.
Yeah, this whole thing was going on. I saw the protest starting, people holding up signs, after the collapse, because that said, find them first. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And then I started reading about it, and the city sent out an email saying that they were going to demolish the building the next morning, which I believe was Monday morning.
Monday is when the email went out, yeah.
Yeah, Monday morning is when the email went out. And I thought I was going crazy because, I mean, it was just kind of unthinkable. Like, I was like, okay, am I going crazy? Like, this doesn't like track with all the other like any other time that a collapse happens around the world, um like people search for days and weeks for these people, like, but they're just like, actually, we're just gonna, we're just gonna, who gives a fuck about these guys, we're just
It's
gonna
gotta go
demolish the
down
building
right
and
now.
yeah, and so that's why I went down there and to like just see what was going on and just to try to talk to some of these people and to add my voice to that, concern, because the city was not giving clear answers for the longest time. And, they flat out said, we think that there's at least 2 people in the rubble, but they're probably dead. So it doesn't matter. And then
Yeah.
they tried to backtrack after in a press release saying that, oh, we were just setting up for demo. We weren't actually going to demolish, and then the reporter asked a follow-up question, or followed up by saying, well, actually, here's the email that says you were going to demolish it. And then the mayor was just like, I didn't write it.
I didn't send that email.
Yeah. But anyways, it was just kind of an unthinkable situation that kind of made me lose my mind for a second.
Yeah. It happened. Yeah. I think it was the day before Memorial Day is when the building came down. And then I was like casually following the news. And then like right before I was going to go to bed, I saw that they were like going to knock the building down in 12 hours. And then they found, well, they didn't find, but Lisa Brooks was just waving out of her apartment window, and the crowd who had gathered around the building saw her. And this was after the city was like, we're going to knock this down as soon as possible. And, oh, hey, there's a living woman inside the building waving to us.
And this was after they said, oh, yeah, there's no one alive in there. We used dogs. Like, we used dogs, we used thermal technology, we flew drones around, and so we're certain no one's in there. And then some lady's just like, oh, I was hanging out in the bathtub, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then so people were rightly like, okay, so why are you sure now that no one's in the building?
Right. Who else might be in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, how many of these people are missing? What the hell's going on? Like, to me, I can understand, like, saying, hey, we're going to be demolishing this building, but, like, it's clear that they were just, like, totally inept in the response to this, right? Like, yeah, of course you're going to, bring down an unsafe building, but really, is that the first thing that you should really go to when there's people still, like, in the rubble? Like, shouldn't this be like a search and rescue? Like, hey, we're focused on, finding these people and figuring out what's going on, and it's like, none of that. Radio silence. Oh, we're knocking down the building.
Yeah, and I mean, at least Brandon Colvin's family was right there outside the building, and they're saying, like, yeah, we're going to knock this down right in front of you without ever even talking to any of you. While we were there on Tuesday, they had a press conference where a relative of Ryan Hitchcock spoke and basically, like, went along with everything the city was saying and was saying, like, I know my cousin's dead, knock that building down. It was very strange. But the reason I bring it up is because Ryan Hitchcock is white and Brandon Colvin is black, and none of his family were allowed to speak or even be present for the press conference. So there's just a very stark racial disparity there. This building, of course, and many of the properties owned by Andrew Wold, who is the slumlord who caused this to happen. A lot of black people live in his buildings. He, from what I was told by a resident of another of his properties, he does not check credit, and he specifically courts tenants who are on like Social Security, disability, stuff like that. He's preying on people who don't have a lot of means, but who have like a guaranteed monthly income that he can then siphon away from them. So there's a lot of poor people in his buildings, and that's why I think he was allowed to get away with neglecting the building for so long, is because who's going to get hurt? Just some poor people.
And I think it's really interesting, from talking to you guys who are down there, and I've spent some time in the Quad Cities, the big old cities, and I don't really remember this building, but like
there's actually 5 of them, 5 Quad Cities.
Yeah, and it's just interesting that it's right by City Hall.
No, yeah, like unbelievably close. When I got there, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe. Like, the west wall is the one that fell down. And you can see it from the front door of City Hall. Like, probably all their office windows, like, they can see this building that's just been deteriorating for years right in front of them. And they just, like, they send these, like, code violations and all these, like, quote unquote final notices about the state of this building. They're watching it fall down, and they never actually, like, intervene in any meaningful way.
Yeah, I think it's would be good to bring up this lawsuit that has come out of this, which got posted to Twitter. I don't recall who posted it. I apologize. But
Ty Rushing of Iowa Starting Line shared this 89-page lawsuit on Google Drive.
Yeah, and it's I would recommend people go and read it because the narrative on it is pretty good. But it's very impressive how inept and how long that this has been going on, and it's like standard landlord, just paint over it and make it look like it's good to go and keep on charging.
Yeah, giving it the landlord special for sure, but on a catastrophic scale. I mean, the amount of, like, just talking to these tenants, because a lot of them, like, they were just like, all of our stuff's in there. We have nothing. We're just sitting here waiting on some word. Like, I talked to one person who only had to his name because of this, his, like, phone charger, phone, and car, and work uniform. So he even had to go, he said, to TJ Maxx to buy more clothes, so he didn't just have to wear his work uniform around. And they're just sitting there, and they're like, we saw this coming. Like, this building was trash, like, noticeably trash, and this guy had not shown up to many requested court appearances for violations, and they knew that nothing was going to happen, and I don't know, the worst case scenario happened. And then there were also people who live in his other properties that were now like, man, our building sucks too. We're scared to go home. We like turned off the gas in our building without even, because we're scared it's going to blow up. And I would be scared too, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the photos in this lawsuit are pretty stunning. Like, and some of them are pretty old, right? Where it's like, oh, this has been going on for years, and it's like, just paint over it. Don't worry about the massive interior damage that's happening. That's clear structural problems, and don't worry about it.
Yeah, mask it from the outside, sort of half-assedly, and then no one will notice what's happening. Yeah, the stuff in the lawsuit, there's photos that date back to 2020. So at the very least, like 3 years of total neglect. Let me list this is one of, I think, 3 lawsuits that have made the news regarding this. The defendants. I don't really need to name the plaintiff. That's kind of weird to just say her name, but she was a resident of the building, of course. The defendants are Andrew Wold, and then 2 of his companies, Davenport Hotel LLC and Andrew Wold Investments LLC, all of which have the same address in Bettendorf on West Harbor Drive. You can find it if you're interested. And then other defendants are Select Structural Engineering LLC, which is a company out of Cedar Rapids. And from reading the lawsuit, Select Structural Engineering's employee David Valier inspected the building, I think, starting late 2022, if I remember the timeline right, and he called for emergency supports and shoring of that wall that was falling down in order to prevent, like, any further damage once they've begun necessary repairs.
Yeah, I think we should back up that, like,
okay,
what kind of happened was this building was kind of falling apart when this guy bought it. And
yes.
They had been giving the owners of the previous building, which was some like Waukee company, I think it was.
Waukee Investments, which is also headquartered in Bettendorf, so I don't know why they're called that.
Yeah, so anyway, these folks sold the building to this new landlord, Mr. Wold, and it was already kind of having major structural problems, and it needed serious repair. And so they had called for, like the bottom of the brick wall was basically collapsing. And so it needed to be, really replaced entirely. But, that would be very expensive. And so, over time, it had been getting more and more damaged, and basically he had painted over the wall to mask some of these problems, and then eventually got the lowest bidder to start a repair.
Yeah. The lowest bidder that you're referring to, I believe, is Bi-State Masonry, who are based in Rock Island. And they began working on that wall without installing the bracing that Select Structural's engineer had said would basically be a requirement in order to prevent injury and catastrophe. And then Bi-State Masonry, they requested a change in their work order with Andrew Wold so that they could continue working in accordance with the city's historical
the historical preservation laws.
Yeah.
But I think they also probably needed more shoring and more money. That was probably a ploy to be like, hey, this is more complicated than what we initially, got into. Not to, say that they aren't, liable for this either, but,
right.
It's pretty amazing how they got to this point.
Yeah. So they requested, you're going to have to pay more for this. This is a bigger project, and we need to follow these city requirements. And they were promptly fired from the job. And this is the craziest thing, to me anyway. As soon as he fired them, Andrew Wold then, it seems, the way it's presented in this lawsuit, that he just went outside and found the nearest construction crew and started talking to them about doing it. Because this guy, Ryan Schaefer, was working on a nearby building, and Andrew Wold just went to him and asked him for a quote to then fix the wall that he had just fired the people who were working on it.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive quote, the way that they set this up.
Do you have a quote you want to read from the lawsuit about that?
No, I'll have to.
Okay.
I'll have to find it. Sorry.
But speaking of quote, Ryan Schaefer quoted Andrew Wold $50,000 for the job, and Wold said that was too much. And Schaefer also said, there needs to be structural reinforcements in order for us to work on this wall. And Wold didn't want to pay for that.
and I think he said, or people will die, or something along those lines.
Yeah. And he was right.
Yeah, and he was also in the news for, following up and trying to warn people that the building was going to collapse the way that they were, performing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Because to go to the next part of the story, it seemed like he went and found an additional lower bid, and they actually began working on the building, which then preceded this collapse. Because there are photos in this lawsuit of the brick facade being removed and the inner layer of the brick being there, and just it looking like it's going to fall apart, which it did.
Yeah. So instead of there being actual structural supports to keep the whole thing from falling apart as you do your repairs, it seems like they just leaned some 2x4s up against the building that weren't doing anything.
Yeah, it's a pretty damning series of pictures. And I think some of those photos were actually taken by the city. And they, kind of approved all this work happening. Or at least they came out and inspected it and were like, oh, okay, here are these photos we're taking.
And they just shrugged their shoulders and walked away.
Yeah, well, keep up the good work.
Yeah, you got some duct tape holding it up. It's fine. You can... It's just at every point... There were so many points in this event where something could have been done. There was so many opportunities for someone to either do the necessary repairs or to evacuate or is something, for the residents to actually be told the proper situation, and then they could make the judgment call themselves. Anything. There were so many points and they failed at all of them. Yeah. And rightfully so, they're going to get sued into oblivion. The city, the companies, Andrew Wold, hopefully he loses everything. And goes to prison. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
what
it
else
seems like this becomes a criminal matter in some way or form.
And I've been wondering, you know, I'm obviously not a lawyer, but I'm wondering what specific charge, like some type of criminal neglect charge, would even be plausible in this situation.
Yeah, this lawsuit seems to be mostly about neglect, and they're like suing for their own personal damages. But there has to be something like, you know, he killed people, essentially. There has to be some kind of like manslaughter charges or something that they can pin on him.
You would think so, you know, but I mean, and maybe they'll try to do something like that to save face. By them, I mean like the state apparatus, like city prosecutors, everything. But
government.
The government, yeah. But I mean, I mean, honestly, like I just don't think they actually give a fuck. You know, they have to do something, like I said, to save face, but they could have done something to prevent it from happening if they actually cared. If they didn't treat landlords with little kid gloves, you know, they were putting people's lives in danger. And prosecutors will charge people on weed crimes. You know, they'll take them to court and then, you know, send them to jail. But somebody who's endangering 80 people and all the, like the people below who have the businesses that were also in this building, you know,
the workers, I mean, like it's insane at every level, how poorly this looks for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And to my knowledge, only
except
one
for the
person
tenants, for sure,
has resigned.
The city inspector.
Her name is in here, but there's 89 pages. I'll remind you. So we may come to that at some point. So I also, you know, before we get too far into the details, I did want to commend Quad City Times reporters Sarah Watson, Grace Kinnicutt, and Gretchen Teskey, who were and still are tweeting like all the time. They've been like in the area, keeping track of like the work that's being done and like the status of the building and all the press conferences and all of the gatherings that have been outside the building to both protest and like do vigils and stuff for the victims of this catastrophe. They have been doing really good work.
They've been out there for days in the super hot weather. And, you know, you can tell that they actually give a shit, you know, and they want to help hold these people accountable. Also, Zach Smith from IPR did good stuff too. Yeah. Regarding this. I mean, this type of investigative journalism that arises with these local newspapers are something that we should value more as a society, because they do these things, you know, on the local level. And, you know, so yeah, definitely. I've been following those, all of those reporters this whole time, and they've just been constantly on top of it.
Amy Rivers from Iowa Starting Line was also present on the day that Oliver and I were there, and she interviewed briefly. She got a couple quotes from a guy that I had been talking to all day. His name was Joshua, and I feel like we are in the position to repeat some things that we heard from Andrew Wold's tenants and people who had worked for him and stuff like that. I think we can sort of relay some of the stuff that they said more freely than some of the more, quote, legitimate press organizations. For example, Joshua told me that he first met Andrew Wold when he spent some time, you know, in prison and stuff for stuff in his past. And I think that he said this was about 5 years ago. He was staying at a homeless shelter, and he said that Andrew Wold arrived and just picked up a few guys who were staying at the shelter to come with him and do some work on one of his properties. So this is the kind of operation that Andrew Wold is running, where instead of paying like a proper wage to people with the equipment, the skills, the experience necessary to take care of his 100-plus-year-old buildings, he was cutting as many corners as possible, finding the most easily exploited people he could to pay them as little as possible to do less than the bare minimum to maintain.
You're telling me a landlord would do that, Justin?
Can you believe it?
Can you? It's shocking shit. And like you know that some hand wringing like liberals and the Quad Cities would see something like that, like, oh, this wonderful landlord giving these downtrodden people an opportunity to lift themselves up by their bootstraps and give them a chance after they went to prison, and give them places to live. It doesn't matter that the places to live are literally deadly. It infuriates me, this guy I'm making up in my head that I know exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, it couldn't be that he's finding the people that society as a whole gives the least of a shit about, so he can mistreat them as much as possible and get away with it.
And let's not just talk about the people who died. Like, there was this couple that lived there, and there was a woman who was pinned in the debris and had to have her leg amputated on site in the building to get freed from the debris. Yeah. And I mean, and her wife was able to go up there and, talk to her for a second to comfort her. But if you read the article, I think it was a QC Times article that I read about it.
I think that was the first time that was reported, because initially it was the initial reporting was well, this building fell down and one person got injured, and other than that, no big deal.
I don't think anyone knew when we were there that had happened.
Right.
The only thing that was alluded to the fact before the whole, gruesome details were released, I think, was during the initial press conference that the city of Davenport gave. The mayor was on this rant about how the protesters stop attacking the first responders. You can attack me. They performed surgery in the building and great peril to themselves. And I was like, wait a minute,
surgery?
They performed surgery in the building? And that was also just a weird thing of him trying to portray protesters as somehow questioning the bravery of firefighters. To try to make them look bad or something. There's this unreasonable mob that's making fun of these heroes.
And it's no, that information literally had not been communicated to anyone, that any of this had happened. It's it turns out the woman got her, leg amputated. Come on. People are very receptive to the people in the building. That's who they are entirely focused on.
Right. I mean, most of what we saw in terms of first responders is 25 cops just standing around.
Yeah. I mean, and I will say that people started to get mad at the cops because, imagine, there were so many family members of people there. Imagine if you knew your father, your cousin, your uncle, whatever was under the rubble that you can see with your own eyes, and nothing happens all day. Justin and I were there for so many hours, and just, the pile of rubble was not touched, and people were just getting more and more hey, our guy is in there. If you would let us, we would all go do it. And you cops are just standing around. And if we try to go do that, you will arrest us. And people were starting to I think more and more realize that dynamic that was going on. And people started to get really mad,
Yeah. There was at least one
rightfully
guy
so, in my opinion,
who did get arrested a day or two after we were up there. I don't know if anyone else tried to get to the building and was arrested or not.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did see that as well. But it does seem like things have turned around a little bit. I mean, they have seemed to be communicating a little bit more, and, doing the search and rescue seems to be at least headed in the right direction versus, the total chaos that was the beginning. However, it is very interesting that, our lady Kim Reynolds is also, getting Ron DeSantis help and trying to get federal money for it. Yeah.
It's strange. I mean, what's so frustrating is how poorly they're communicating and how much they're not telling the public. And there's this weird contradiction between the urgency at the beginning where they were we have to demo the rest of this building as soon as possible because it poses a threat to the surrounding area, and how slowly everything happened after there was a public backlash against that. Just now the governor is calling for federal help. It's been almost 2 weeks and you were ready to knock it down ASAP. Why? Do you not know what you're doing? Is that the problem?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear there was no preparation at all. So that's probably the root of the problem, is that, like, you know, our public services have been totally gutted for any kind of emergency management. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, Cedar Rapids derecho, where everyone was just like holding their dicks for the first couple of days, going being like, oh yeah, things are really bad, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, So Mike Mattson is the mayor of Davenport, and in those first couple of days, it was reminding me over and over of oh shit, now I can't remember his name. Who was mayor of Cedar Rapids during the derecho? Brad Hart.
Brad Hart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was reminding me a lot of that, where he's just like getting frustrated with the press asking him questions, and like, I didn't send that email. Like, he's both like trying to say like, the responsibility is mine, I'm the one who you should be angry at, but also saying, I didn't send that email. Like, it's not my fault.
But don't be mad.
Just a totally floundering, just like someone who comes from like just a business background, is not at all equipped to handle an angry public and should not be in this position of elected office. Anyway.
Yeah, there was, as Alan put it, there was lots of dick holding going on in like the initial Davenport thing, just like the derecho. I mean, I can't, that's a perfect way to put it. I mean, it is just like contradictory, like what you were saying, just one thing after the other, crazy miscommunications, and just this general attitude of kind of like resentment. I got a little bit of like the reporters asking questions, like the public having questions about like these timelines that didn't match up. And I mean, yeah, you had the fire marshal go up there during that initial press conference and just start like crying. He cried for like, do you remember that? He cried for like minutes. And then you had one inspector get up there and just kind of like pound his fist on the thing. He was like, the debris pile is holding up the rest of the building. We can't look. Yeah, it's just a very odd reaction.
Yeah. I got the name in front of me. The city inspector who has resigned is Trishna Pradhan, Pradhan. So far, I think the only person to resign over this debacle. Oh yeah, we didn't mention Andrew Wold has been fined $300 so far as a result of this. So he's paying his dues.
And there's reporting that, I was going to say there's reporting that he also, you know, like hasn't really paid a bunch of other of his fines and has been, you know, fined before.
Yeah, we were told that offender by one of his tenants that he skips court dates all the time and has never been further punished for it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this man, like, I don't see him making it out of this with any money. Hopefully, maybe that's just optimistic thinking on my part, but
yeah,
the $300 fine from the city is just like, I don't know, you might as well not have fined him anything. That's more insulting than anything, you know?
300 big ones.
I think it is only served to anger people because, I mean, it can't be the only consequence, but to just only put that out there and not really say anything else,
right?
Again, is
like the context for it,
right? Yeah, like, is this it? Like, is this the only action the city is going to take? Does this really cover the damage?
Yeah. Oh, and we forgot to mention the Kim Reynolds stimmies that were going to each of the residents of the building. The governor, I don't know what fund it came out of, just like some emergency fund, like just each allegedly, I think it was like what, $5,000 each person.
$5,500 from the state, and then the city also said they're going to give them $6,000 each.
Oh wow!
I think it's two separate things.
Well, hopefully that's just the beginning.
Yeah. I haven't heard it or read anything about like the process there. Like, how are they going to get that money, and what hoops are they going to have to jump through?
Yeah.
You're probably going to means test it.
Yeah. If you rent, you're supposed to have renter's insurance, which, you know, we love.
Actually, you were breaking the law.
Yeah, we love to have a privatized, system, don't we, folks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're probably going to be like, all right, to get this money, you have to prove that you're working at least 30 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have to send some pay stubs, prove that you lost more than X amount of money in the, that
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised.
With your impeccable record keeping, I'm sure, which you kept at a separate location, not in the building itself.
We're going to need 3 bank statements.
Yeah. And also, what I was told by one of his tenants is, he accepts like cash payments. So like, who knows like what kind of income some of these people have. Like they may not be under perfectly legal circumstances either, which is going to be weaponized against them in a situation like that.
Yeah, which is hopefully it's just no strings attached. They're just like, what's your bank routing number? And they just send it to them.
Yeah.
But,
There is a phrase in this lawsuit that is really good, like just a beautiful, eloquent phrase, and it sort of lays out what else is coming in the lawsuit. It's just called "The Timeline of Wold's Outrageous Neglect and Apathy."
Yep.
I mean, how else can you put it?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, whoever wrote up this lawsuit was like really not pulling any punches. Like, they're very clear the whole time that like he knew this was going to happen eventually, and the only reason he didn't take any action is because he doesn't care about the people who live in his building, and he wants to make as much money as possible. That's more important to him than any human life.
Yep.
Yeah, it just seems to me that he doesn't see his tenants as people. They're just kind of like weird flesh sacks that he gets money from.
Yeah, he's just a leash off of them.
Yeah, exactly. And, it turned out to be fatal. Like, it can through other means with landlords in this way, but this is kind of like the more dramatic way.
It's more explicit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm very excited to see what happens in the future to this man in particular. I mean, it was nice to me that people kind of instantly knew, people were like, yeah, this guy fucking sucks. Keel haul the guy. And here's a picture of his house. And
his ugly ass house.
It's so ugly, but it's like so big.
Yeah.
Like it is atrocious, and hopefully he loses it.
Yeah,
and it's just like living in a house like that, and then being like, oh, I can't do this renovation because it's too much money.
Sorry, I want to pay $50,000 or $40,000, not $50,000. So
yeah,
thank you very much for my. How many story building is this? 6-story building?
6, I believe. Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, my, huge 6-story building. I can't afford that. Let me do some math here. Let's just assume, how many? There was 80 units, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Let's just say $800 a month times 80. Oh, that's $64,000. Oh, so that's like 1 month of rent on that puppy?
And that's only one of its buildings.
Right.
One of his many properties. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never did get a number of like how much does he actually own. I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah. And he is,
I'm sure
it's like
we
the corporate structure has been, changed around recently and all sorts of other fuckery. So I'm sure it'll be very exciting, when the lawsuits finally wrap up.
Yeah, in this lawsuit alone, there's like his personal name and then 2 different LLCs involved. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's got to be shuffling stuff around in interesting
landlords
ways.
Love to have faceless LLCs to have money in.
Yeah, all at the same address, huh?
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely a different entity.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised I haven't heard of any like vandalism on this guy's house.
Everyone knows where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not
he
even
has
like
been doxxed.
Yeah, well, good. I also was just like, I gotta find out what this guy looks like, so I know in my brain has an image to dislike. Yeah.
I haven't seen what he looked like. I did
okay.
Google him, but I was unsure which one was him.
There was like a few years ago, there was like a puff piece about him. It might have been in Quad City Times, but it might have been another local paper. But just about how he's like an entrepreneur, an investor building up the city or whatever. And there's a picture of him. He kind of reminds me of like Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. He's got this got like a similar facial hair thing, but he's a little bit bigger than that guy. But he kind of
to me, he looks like he manages a Hooters.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
Like that's the vibe I get from this man. He's just like managing the Hooters, and he has a lot to say about like sports betting. That's his, the look that he gives off.
Sports betting and women's bodies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you haven't heard about any vandalism, but I did see vandalism in terms of Google reviews. So I looked up the address in the lawsuit here, which is Andrew's personal home in Bettendorf, and somebody on Google tagged that location as public toilets, and it currently has a 1-star rating. So his home
Classic.
is
Got him.
not good public toilets, very bad public toilets.
Got the old Margaret Thatcher gravesite treatment.
Right. Yeah. There was one other thing I wanted to say about, something that hasn't really been reported by the more legitimate press that I was hearing from a tenant who knows Andrew on a personal level. So Andrew was described to me as a frat boy. He does not know how to do anything. He hires out all of these like maintenance and repair jobs. Also sometimes to people who also don't know what they're doing, but it's clear that he doesn't know how to do anything. He just is a guy who has a bunch of money. He inherited, I was told, $3 million from his father, and also a bunch of properties. And for the decade after his father's death, he was just like partying all over the world, spending as much of that $3 million as possible. And then at some point decided, I'm going to come back to Davenport, my hometown, and start buying up a bunch of shit and letting it deteriorate while I siphon as much money as possible from the residents of Davenport. That's the history of this guy, is what I've been told.
Good gig if you can get
small $3 million loan.
Right. Yes. He's a self-made man.
Yeah. We can all be like him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
I hope, I just can't. I have to like suppress thinking about this man, otherwise I'm gonna get multiple forms of cancer. But like just the overarching, like I think this is one like the most egregious and one of the most all-encompassing tenant rights issue, like just come to fruition. Just everything. Like this relationship, this, tension between landlords and tenants, this is just kind of like the pinnacle of that struggle, is just actual death from the building itself due to neglect, specifically in a low income neighborhood, specifically in a neighborhood that has a high Black population. Because if this happened somehow to some bougie like condo building, like there's no way it's getting the same treatment. You can't convince me that the city would react in the same way.
And we can see all of this neglect on the part of the landlord and on the part of the city, just not caring, letting this guy get away with everything. And to me, that is an example of the biggest conspiracy that happens in America, the conspiracy among the ownership class, just the people who own all the property in the country, who also own all of the local governments. They're all the same people. They all conspire knowingly or just instinctually to protect their own interests and to keep building up their own wealth at the expense of everyone else, namely the people who live in the properties that they own and neglect. This is, to me, a real vast conspiracy.
Justin, you're using conspiracy in quotes. I want everybody to be, that's not watching on video, to understand the quotes. It's a conspiracy.
It's a conspiracy that isn't, when people think
that is
it's not some,
broad daylight.
Right. Yeah. It's not a conspiracy theory.
Unspoken.
It is a conspiracy. This is a class of people protecting their own interests and like protecting each other because, that's how the whole thing stays afloat. And an example of that, something that makes you think, like, people don't want to think. People don't want to believe, quote, conspiracy theories, but then there's stuff like this, where Robert H. Gallagher is the registered agent of Andrew Wold Investments. And people who live in the Quad Cities and know the names of people in charge of the Quad Cities, Robert H. Gallagher is the father of the present Bettendorf mayor, Bob S. Gallagher. And he's been mayor of Bettendorf since 2012. So this is like a guy who's been in office running the city of Bettendorf for years. And his father is the registered agent of Andrew Wold Investments, the guy who owns the building that collapsed after years of neglect and looking the other way from another attached city government. So it's not so much that, like, I don't know. I mean, they're all part of the same club and they let each other get away with shit because that's how they make their profit.
They would want the same to be done for them if they were in a pickle, you know. I mean, it like you said, the conspiracy is literally just capitalism as a whole.
Yeah.
It you know, it's not some, like, you know, aliens did it thing. It's just like, it's the reality that property and capital and money is more important to these people, and maintaining that power and that relationship to people who aren't of the ownership class, you know, that is more important to them than the lives of these people and and the well-being of them.
Yeah. People don't want to view that as a criminal conspiracy because this is just the way things are done. And it's all above board because they are the people who make the rules.
Well, you voted for them.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, and not only is Robert H. Gallagher the father of the Bettendorf mayor, they also practice at the same law firm, Gallagher, Millage, and Gallagher. So I don't want you to think that this is like an estranged father and son. Like, they work together on a regular basis as well. So it's all this vast web of like elected people who own all the buildings.
Justin, they have a healthy father-son relationship. I don't know why you're so upset.
I don't want to cast aspersion on the Gallaghers. Although I do know a pair of brothers named Gallagher who had a very contentious relationship, and one of them toured as Gallagher 2 and stole the other's act. I don't know if you guys know about the watermelon guys, Gallaghers.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to judge Bob and Bob here for the other troublesome Gallagher relationships.
That's really funny. I didn't know there were two of them.
Oh, you don't know about that?
I don't know about the situation either, I don't think. Gallagher, I mean, I think I may have heard about it, but is he also bald and smash things?
I think they look pretty much the same. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's one too many.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But Gallagher 2 is still alive, I think, so he won at the end of the day. Do you guys want to move on to a bit of a lighter topic?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to get my laughs in.
Okay. You know Zach Wahls, right?
Zach Wahls, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Wahls, yes.
As I whack Zalls, I overheard at the 2020 caucus in Coralville's first precinct.
Got his ass.
Let's just call him whack balls.
Yeah, just take it another step further.
Just whack balls. Just combine them.
By the way, if you are the person I overheard saying whack Zalls in 2020 and you happen to listen to the podcast, feel free to reach out and I'll give you credit for that. It's pretty clever.
I was going to say that our man Dexter, who I'm the number one fan of, he made a good series of tweets about his what press was he on? The Iowa Press or something? Some interview?
Yeah. Iowa PBS does a show called Iowa Press where they, I think, have interviewed Zach Wahls multiple times. It's like OK Henderson and a couple other guys who just interview like important people in Iowa. And yes, Dexter Merschbrock of the Cedar Rapids School Board took some clips from that interview. And, credit to him for watching the whole thing and picking out the interesting parts, because I didn't
I'm
have
not
it in
gonna
me.
do that. Yeah, not gonna do
Yeah,
that.
no way. Yeah, I value my health. I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah. Let me play a couple clips from this for you. The first one, Zach says that legal weed is not a priority for him. I don't know if we need to listen to it really, but how do you feel about that? Do you think that that would maybe benefit the Democratic Party of Iowa if they did make that a priority, legalizing weed?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like, we're the party that's going to make it legal to smoke weed. Like, yeah, duh, that's going to get voters. You know, it's going to get people hyped to vote for your stupid asses.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
a very popular thing in the United States now, and it's clear by the sales in other states that it would be popular here. And it's like, that alone should make it obvious that they should be doing that. But it's like, no, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about this other stuff, some of which is decent, but like a lot of it just is like, what?
Yeah. He does say, to his credit, that he thinks that weed should be treated like alcohol in terms of legal status. It's just not a priority for him, is what he said. It does seem like an easy issue to push that would
just
win
be
a
like,
lot of
yeah,
people
let's
over.
do it.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
This clip, though, I did think was interesting enough to listen to.
Plus, there'll be $3.5 billion in the taxpayer relief fund.
Right.
How would Democrats spend that money?
So, we've seen Republicans continue to underinvest in key public safety things. You look at the Department of Corrections.
So in terms of priorities, those are his priorities.
I mean, when I think of progressive, when I think of the progressive platform, I'm instantly like, yeah, okay, number one, prison. We need to expand that.
Yeah. The Democrats are for the prison guards.
Yeah.
So,
It's a worker issue.
Exactly.
Like it's a worker issue. They're understaffed. This made me want to die when I heard it. It's just like, after seeing the Iowa Democratic Party just shit the bed so much, just so much shit all over the bed in every election after election after election, and then just to keep doing this shit to just actually we love the cops, we love prisons,
and it would be one thing to do have that as a thing that you're for, but as the thing that you want to talk about in Iowa press,
the first example.
Yeah. The first thing that I want to do is refund the police.
Yeah, refund the police. They want to refund the prisons. I don't know. I think prison reform is a nice winning message, honestly. To
be fair, they were never defunded, but let's continue.
Yeah, exactly. They were never defunded. The prisons just got more packed, and then they were like, oh, damn, we need more guards.
Because of things like that first thing that was not a priority of his, legalizing drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The prisons get overfilled because you charge people with stuff that should not be a crime, and you throw them in prison for life.
Yeah, I mean, you can even do the stupid we need to protect the corrections officers approach by being we need to protect them so they're not short-staffed by not having as many people in prison.
Yeah.
You can even do that approach, but instead they're it's just the first thing you think of when someone asks you, how are the Republicans failing now?
Not enough prison money.
Did you not see the legislative session that just happened in Iowa? Did that not make you want to kill yourself? And a million things that happened, and it's just mind blowing to me. I don't know what the fuck this guy's thinking. I remember Zach Wahls kind of sprung into the limelight when he gave an impassioned speech to the Iowa legislature, I think.
Yeah. 2011 is when that happened.
Regarding his two moms, right?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, damn, this guy rocks, you're my hero, dude. I'm 2011, I really hope gay marriage gets legalized, or whatever the timeline of that was.
It was legal here, but not nationally. And they were trying to reverse it here.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was watching those proceedings as a high schooler, being yeah, this guy rocks. He has a bright future. And then it's just kind of is black pilling a little bit to just now see him being yeah, we need as leader of the Senate minority.
We need lesbian prison guards.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay, in terms of his bright future, let me play one more clip related to that.
We need to get
and
into
it. Then we can get to the breaking news. But here's something about his aspirations first.
Let's talk about you. Do you ever have an interest in running for Congress?
I will not be running for the U.S. House in 2024. I'm really enjoying my work in the Senate, and I'm going to stay focused there.
Yay!
So he's not running for Congress, and he really likes his job as the Senate Minority Leader, which he had until last night. Right after he did this interview, or right after it aired anyway, within days, the Senate Democrats convened to kick him out as the leader. They replaced him unanimously with...
Whoa.
Yeah, did you not see this story today?
I did not.
Pam Yoakum is now the Senate Minority Leader for the Democrats in Iowa.
And do we know anything about her? I'm not, I'm not super woke on these whole, state legislatures.
I don't know anything about her really, other than that she has been in the legislature forever. I think 1993 is when she got elected to the Iowa House. So she's just someone who's been
super
there forever.
promising.
Yeah.
This will be great for the Democrats.
Yeah, they replaced somebody who, while I don't like him most of the time, he was like our age and like somewhat in touch with like, progressive priorities, even if he does not share them or advocate for them really. And they replaced him with a 68-year-old who has been in the legislature for, 30 years. It doesn't mean she's bad, but it does mean they're sort of regressing in terms of like, who's in charge of the state party.
And what do we know about why he was fired?
So the only thing that's really been reported on is, and this I think was initially brought to light by the Iowa Field Report, which is the right-wing rag that occasionally crops up to spread gossip about Iowa Democrats. They say that Zach Wahls sent out an email to the rest of the Senate Dems last Friday and abruptly fired two longtime members of the staff, Eric Baker and Debbie Kattenhorn. These two were working for the party, or maybe for the Senate Democrats specifically. I don't know what their jobs were exactly, but they had been working for the Senate Dems or the party for about 20 years, and Zach fired them pretty much without warning and replaced them with new people, and it pissed off everyone else in his caucus.
Enough to get his ass fired.
Like, on the drop of a hat. Like, they just, like, came together to kick him out real quick.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what's really going on there.
Yeah, I've got a Gazette article pulled up by Aaron Murphy and Tom Barton, and they tried to, like, ask whoever they could more about this, and it seems like the only quotes they really got were from our old friend Molly Donahue, who people may remember her as the person who had a Twitter alt last year that got sort of exposed. She's so cool. Running an anonymous account to like smear her primary opponent. And I mean, all she really said was that this was most definitely not about one single issue. So it was not just that he fired those people. I guess there must be more to it.
It wasn't that he fired one. It was that he fired both of them.
Right. It's not just one reason. It's two reasons.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to hear the hot goss once it comes out.
I really want to know what else went into this. Yeah.
I hope someone runs their mouth.
It's because he went on the television and said, hey, we want to spend money on corrections. That's the number one issue.
I don't think that
I would fire him
too. I mean, I think we're more bothered by that than the Senate Democrats.
Yeah, they were probably like, good job.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny. I'm glad that happened to Zach Wahls.
I'm mad because he's my state senator, so I had a lot of power since my senator was the minority leader, and now I have less power, and I'm mad.
You voted for Zach Wahls.
I actually didn't.
Damn.
Wow, you wouldn't vote for a Democrat, Justin?
I voted for
You basically made
some.
fascism happen.
Yeah, he won by probably 80 points in this district, so I don't think he needed my help. Zach, if you do hear this episode and you are willing to run your mouth a little bit, you know where to go. We'll let you say whatever you want.
You know how we talked about legitimate news sources a little bit earlier? Well, we're an illegitimate news source.
That's right. You can say whatever you want, and you can say that we're lying, too. You can deny any news that comes from us because we're not a real news organization.
Yeah, I heard that Zach Wahls actually was switching parties to Republican.
Yeah, I heard that, too.
I heard that from various sources, so...
Wow,
yeah,
breaking news on this show.
Yeah, and
yeah, I know.
I can add that Zach Wahls did not respond to a request for comment that I made, 30 seconds ago on...
Interesting.
He hasn't responded, so can't confirm or deny.
All right, so Zach Wahls is now a Republican. Where does that leave the Democratic Party?
It's a shocking turn of events. They've gone from, let's see, the Republicans have 34 seats and the Democrats have 16. So, huge shift in the power balance. It's now 35-15 because Zach Wahls is
that's going to be crushing for the Democrats.
Has defected to the Iowa Republican Party.
And as we all know, the Iowa Democrats are very, strong-willed and will definitely stand up for, what's right.
They'll do their best.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a few more minutes? Can we listen to some voicemails?
I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. The phone number is 319-849-8733. If you are a listener to this show and you have anything to share with us that you would like us to play on the show, please feel free to call 319-849-8733. Here is our first voicemail of the day.
This is the illustrious, godlike Brockhampton Nipper, and I have some fantastic intel for you to distribute. Volodymyr Zelensky is responsible for the death of Shandis Nipper, who had special permission from Donald Trump to reveal the secrets of Hunter Biden and his plans to open up not one, not two, but 400 rainforest cafe locations across Eurasia and Creston, Iowa. He manipulated me into making my father drink that Pepsi because I thought it was the only way to dry out his very wet, dripping mouth. I wasn't wrong. I was tricked. And I'm blameless as always. Well, now I'm kicking back in the penthouse suite at the dorms of Romania Houston University with beautiful blonde women in bikinis. They're fanning me with palm fronds and feeding me grapes dipped in salt. You see, I planned for this. I had this all figured out. I invested all of my $800 in the Caucus coin, a cryptocurrency created by a secret fifth member of Rock Hard Caucus. That's right, you have a mole in your organization.
It was me.
They taught me a very great
That's what
lesson
they want you to
about
know.
Believing in myself and never giving up like my cousins Trav and Grant did. They gave up. They ate spaghetti with pepper on it, and they're in a coma now. When they wake up and see what I did to their sculptures they made of you, Justin, they're going to take a nice brisk jog.
Oh, it ends there. Okay.
Oh no!
You know, who says
They
that
got
we're
him.
an illegitimate? Who says they're an illegitimate? We're an illegitimate news source.
They got him.
The secret fifth member of the caucus. It's been a few months since he's been on.
It's true. I am also an investor in cauc and the Evan Jones NFT. If anyone would like to make purchases of these, please contact me.
Yeah, it's currently going to the moon.
That's correct.
There's a very limited number of these minted.
That is correct. And you can get in on the ground floor if you simply PayPal me, Venmo me at least $20, maybe more. And, we will give you at least one genuine cauc coin. It's not actually a secret as much as he would like it to believe.
Yeah.
Him referencing Zelensky, I think he did anyways.
He did.
It reminded me, like, back to the Davenport thing, that Newsmax used a picture of the Davenport building, the partially collapsed building in Davenport, Iowa, and said that it was a picture of a building in Russia that got drone striked by Ukraine.
Yes.
I just want to make sure people know, make sure we touched on that, because I thought I was having a stroke when I watched that, to be honest.
It was going worldwide.
Oh, my audio settings are off. Hang on, let me see if I can play this for you. I actually saved that clip because it was very important to me. Okay, let me share this video with you. CJ Peterson is the first person I saw post about this. It was not only a picture of the Davenport building, it was an actual video. This is a clip from Greta Van Susteren's show on Newsmax. She used to be on Fox News, right? So she was at least, in some circles, considered a serious TV news person. Now she's on Newsmax doing explicit disinformation like this.
A new chapter unfolding in the Russia-Ukraine war, and it's disturbing. This morning in Moscow, a city of 21 million people, there's a pre-dawn attack. Drones struck several buildings.
Yeah. So she's talking about a drone strike in Russia, and this is an audio program, but we're looking here at aerial shots of the Davenport building. So,
and there's a sign in English says tow-away zone 306 tenant parking only, and there appears to be a man standing there in a Michael Jackson jacket.
Yeah, looks like
I just thought that was Michael Jackson.
Holy shit,
back.
They got him.
No, there's lots of layers to this, but no, seeing that clip, they didn't just like accidentally use one picture; they used like
video and picture.
Multiple shots. Yeah. I don't know how this happens other than intentionally,
Yeah. I mean, it actually just, the drone strike happened in the American neighborhood of Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why.
The 6th quad city, Moscow.
Yes.
Moscow, Illinois. Thanks for reminding me of that. That's a very strange clip. And I'll link to the video for people who couldn't see it with us.
We may need to give the nippers a little bit more, time to record. The voicemail, I feel like, is maybe a little limited. Just something to consider, maybe like a special line that we could give them, because, they're special.
Yeah, they have a lot to say. I will say that I think the limit on Google Voice is like 2 or 2.5 minutes, and that was only 1:25. So it could have been a phone malfunction.
Well, they got him, so.
It's true.
Yeah,
it did seem like he was, it's what they don't want you to know. Hillary may have, gotten him.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
she does that.
Also, a T-shirt I saw when we were in Davenport. A woman was wearing a shirt that said, "Hillary Clinton killed my friends."
Classic.
Pretty interesting. Voicemail number 2. Let's move on.
Hi, this is Thomas calling from Vermont. Wanted to give you guys a little break from the Chandas and Brock saga. So I'm a chemistry student, and one of my big goals is water quality work and, kind of becoming the most hated man in Vermont. So I listen to you guys because I'm calling from, the little blue ag state, calling the big red ag state. I love that podcast with Chris Jones. Big fan of his. I think he's doing great work, and I wish were able to continue. I did want to correct one little thing. Fritz Haber, terrible guy, but he was a World War I bastard. He was actually Jewish. Died in 1936. Never a Nazi, so it's less a case of him like creating Zyklon B for pure evil, and more like he created it to kill bugs and help farmers, and then the horrible twisted irony and, of hubris that it was then used against probably members of his family. Still not a great guy though, but just want to correct the record on he's not quite as bad as Bosch and all the other Nazis. But otherwise keep up the good work, and, maybe we'll shake things up enough that people will farm in a way that doesn't kill all our water, which is, I like even more than food. All right. See you guys.
Thank you, Thomas from Vermont. Making the bold claim that water is better than food.
I'd agree with that.
I do love
not Iowa water.
Yeah, that's true. Not here. We'd like it to be different. That podcast with Chris Jones was pretty good, though. I do admit I did like that one.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually ran into Chris Jones earlier today too. I'm seeing all the Rock Hard Caucus fan favorites on my journeys today.
Nice.
And I do appreciate the clarification.
They're ruining the
on,
water quality.
I do appreciate the clarification on Fritz Haber, creator of Zyklon B, and interesting connection to the Nipper saga. Actually, when I googled who created Zyklon B to verify the name Fritz Haber, because I didn't quite catch it in the voicemail, the first result was from University of Houston, and now we know Brockhampton Nipper has some connection to the Romania Houston University, so I don't know if there's some sort of Zyklon B connection there as well. Could be lots of nefarious stuff going on. But once again, thank you, Thomas from Vermont. I'm glad that you somehow found our podcast from the state of Vermont. And now, voicemail number 3. This one is a lighter subject.
Hey, Gummy Trucker out of Marion, Iowa, long time, first time. I was just wondering who your favorite X-Men character is. I'll take my answer off the air.
It's actually not the first time Commie Trucker has called in, but I do appreciate the
hey,
old,
let him have his fun.
The old radio tropes. He asked who was our favorite X-Men character. Anyone want to go first?
Yeah, easy. Wolverine next.
I like Captain Picard. The captain, the smart guy,
the bald
Captain
fella.
Xavier.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know his name. Oh, I also like the guy whose eyeballs like shoot laser beams like all the time whenever they're open. Then you have to like wear cool sunglasses, otherwise, he'll just blast everything he looks at.
Yeah, Scott Summers, Cyclops.
Cyclops, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not very well versed in X-Men.
My X-Men knowledge comes mostly from the 90s cartoon and the movies. Obviously, I have some physical resemblance to Wolverine, so I do have an affinity for him and his facial hair choices. I also like Nightcrawler is a pretty cool character. The teleporting German imp. He's a nice.
I think any of them
design.
with accents was kind of fun. You know, like Colossus, Night Stalker, etc. You know, it's like it adds a little bit to the character.
Yeah. Gambit, he's got sort of a Cajun accent. That's a fun one.
I think he's very problematic, if I recall, towards women.
Yeah, I think he is a bit of he's kind of pushy, you know. But,
yeah.
Yeah. Also, this is a controversial. I enjoy the character Deadpool. He's not officially a member of the X-Men. He's not even technically a mutant in the same way that the official X-Men are, but he is frequently associated with them, and I do like him, despite a lot of his very cringy writing in many of the comics.
Justin, you might consider yourself a little Reddit.
Yeah, only on a few. I do share some. I
didn't mean to own you like that. I apologize. I apologize.
It's okay. Sometimes I have Reddit too.
Yeah,
it happens to the best of us. I'm not trying to disparage anyone. I'm just saying it's something that happens.
I'm gonna dig deeper. I enjoy the Joe Kelly Deadpool series from the 90s the most. Also appreciate Jerry Duggan's Deadpool writing of the mid 2010s. Okay, is that specific enough for you? Is that more or less Reddit?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. See, I you have a reason, and you have preferences, which I appreciate. However, unfortunately, it is tainted by the Ryan Reynolds epic Deadpool character now.
Yeah, and I will out myself as appreciating those movies as well.
They're fine. I'm fine with it. Whatever. We're all a little Reddit at heart.
Yeah. And speaking of Reddit, we're going to now hear from an old friend with the final voicemail of the night.
Hello, rock starters. It's me. Your favorite co-host and everyone's favorite state auditor. Or at least I was everyone's favorite. Now that SF-478 is law, no one is going to care one whit about little old me. I'm sure you saw all my tweets about it. Thankfully, it was a very slow news week in Iowa, so my plight was able to get all the attention it deserved. I'm just so glum about the whole thing. I was laughing at first, but now I think I'm getting depressed. All those buggish city clerks in neighborhoods like Wetcheer or Maquoketa are going to be having the time of their lives now that I can't toss them away for 80 years over $200. It's just so gosh darn silly. Excuse my foul language. I know you're a Christ-centered podcast.
That's right.
I should probably get going. I haven't tweeted in a few hours after all. Toodles, everyone.
Thank you for the call, Mr. Sand. I'm sorry to hear you in such a sorry state. Yeah, that law that passed is I'm going to come out and say it. It's bad. It's actually bad.
That's pretty brave of you to say.
It does seem to be a bad
stripped of authority.
Yeah, it does seem to be pretty bad, and it is definitely politically motivated, and it seems like everyone has accepted that, and yet somehow Rob Sand still seems like a sad sack.
Yeah, that's just the nature of power, I guess. Even when everyone knows that there's unfair motivation behind something, they can still do it. Nothing you can really do to stop them.
Yeah, they have a supermajority because every Iowa Democrat is, I think, required to get a frontal lobe lobotomy when they're elected into office. And so, yeah. So sorry that happened to you, Rob Sand.
Rob, we love you. I'd love to hear from you. Keep calling in.
Yeah, even though you sound like Pennywise right now. That... It was kind of Reddit. Like, it could have been a little bit more Joker.
Yeah.
Joker's pretty Reddit, right?
Imagine if Rob Sand was the Joker.
He's getting close.
Is he an X-Men, if you think about it?
Dude, no, Whack Balls is going to be the next Joker.
Yeah,
oh my
definitely.
God. This is his villain origin
He
story.
strikes me more of a Two-Face, to be honest. I don't know why. It just, because he's a politician, I feel like... Well, I suppose Rob Sand is too. Right. I apologize.
Well, Rob, he, as soon as the bill passed, that means that he can no longer request documents from the governor or some shit. Whatever the actual specifics are of that law. He tweeted something like a video, like a selfie video of him laughing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Which is pretty jokery. Laughing.
You need to put that in here.
Whoa.
Yeah, maybe we'll put that clip here of Rob laughing at the corruption.
We uncovered a record amount of waste, fraud, and abuse. Republican insiders in Iowa, they're now responding by literally making it so that state agencies can hide documents from the auditor's office. It's so corrupt that it's actually kind of funny.
He's not mad. He's actually laughing.
Taking one step closer to the full Jokerification of Rob Sand. And that's all we got for voicemails tonight. Thank you guys for fielding those calls with me.
Yeah, no problem. At least it's pretty cool that we got some DC characters that are, getting into our local government.
Yeah. Again, the number is 319-849-8733. You can call in and ask about your teams of mutants that you like. You can pretend to be someone you're not. People do call and do that sometimes. You can call from other states as far away as Vermont. Anyone's welcome here on the voicemail segment of Rock Hard Caucus. And a recent development, you can also now mail us physical items at P.O. Box 5336 in Coralville, Iowa, zip code 52241. P.O. Box 5336. Coralville, Iowa, 52241. No one has taken the opportunity yet, but I had to pay for the thing, so we might as well use it.
Send Justin a love letter.
Yeah. If you send, this is a kind of an old thing that people used to say in commercials a lot. Send a self-addressed stamped envelope to P.O. Box 5336, Coralville, Iowa 52241, and I will send you some stickers that we've had for going on 3 years now. We have got Rock Hard Caucus stickers coming out our asses. We need places to send these, so
do it now. Sign up now. Do it now.
That's right.
Don't wait.
You can also sign up for a 7-day free trial of our Patreon now. That's a new feature. Patreon.com/rockhardcaucus. Free trials. We do extra stuff on there if you're the type of person who spends money on podcasts. A nerd, in other words.
That's right, listeners. We're talking to you.
Yeah. This is not a promise, but Natalie told me that she and Stella may be doing a new Toxic Feminine Mystique episode sometime soon. I don't know about what or when they plan to do it, but pretty exciting.
Cool.
It's been at least 6-7 months since they did one, so it's a momentous occasion.
And Justin, tell us about the additional content you're making and putting on the Patreon. Is there any upcoming episodes of your book club or any other exciting Sonic-based content?
Well, we are planning on reading a Sonic the Hedgehog miniseries that we'll talk about sometime soon. But also, you guys can see this.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah, I'm showing Alan and Oliver a book I just started reading called Ambitions. A novel by Joseph Dobrian.
The Dobrain himself. That's a pretty thick-looking book.
Yeah, he's pretty long-winded. It is 424 pages.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so we'll be getting to that eventually. Is there anything else? Oliver, you got some shows coming up. Do you want to let people know about them?
Oh yeah, I mean, I play in a couple bands. I play in too many of them.
Yeah.
By the time this broadcast, probably the shows might have already happened.
Well, I'm going to try to get it out tonight because I know that there's a thing this weekend.
Oh yeah, well this weekend, June 9th and 10th, there's kind of like a punk festival going on in Iowa City. It's called Pokey's Fest, put on by the person who runs Pokey's Tapes around here. Lots of local bands, national touring bands, that type of stuff. It should be pretty fun. It's going to be at the James Theater and Purgatory, which Purgatory is a house venue across the street from the James Theater, which puts on pretty awesome shows. Yeah.
And Oliver, what will you be playing in?
I play in a new band called Boot Camp.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be playing it at this weekend?
Tomorrow.
Oh my god.
By tomorrow, I mean Friday, June 9th at James Theater starting at 9:00. I also play in a straight edge hardcore band called Chain of Command that's going to be playing on the same show. So I'm doing double duty. I'm going to be very sweaty and I'm going to feel like I have to barf, but it'll be awesome.
Godspeed.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm working until right before that show is supposed to start. So hopefully I'll be able to catch you, but I can't guarantee it.
I'm sure you will. Yeah. This is going to go on punk time for sure. The show's probably not going to start till 9:30 at the latest.
Cool.
Or at the earliest.
Yeah. I'll run over after work.
Nice.
Well, thank you, Alan and Oliver, for joining me, talking about something not fun at all, and then something pretty funny. The Zach Wahls thing.
My pleasure.
Zach Balls.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you guys.
Whack balls. Hey, I have this CD that Oliver gave me with songs that no one can hear yet unless they have the CD. Can I play one of these tracks to close the show?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
Do it.
Do you care which one I play?
No, whichever one you want to play.
Okay, I think I'm going to play Nightmares.
That's a good song.
All right, so here's Nightmares by Death Kill Overdrive to close us out. Thanks for listening, and be good, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.